I would get up to go wash my hands, but I'd really go ask to speak to the manager and the waiter and give them the real spiel.
I could very easily tell the caterer or whoever's doing the food, like, we're just not gonna have peanuts. Like, it's not that big of a deal.
So, but I mean, there have been weddings where I genuinely cannot eat a thing, all the way up to like, holy cow, I've never eaten so well in my life. Hi.
Hello,
And welcome to EpiPod. Sarah is a mom to 2 little boys with food allergies.
And Danielle has navigated life-threatening allergies her entire life.
Living with an invisible health condition is so isolating.
The fear and the anxiety.
Trying to cover it up so you don't affect anybody else.
Especially your kids. Sound familiar?
Join us on the couch and take a load off with people who just get it.
We're so glad you're here.
Welcome back to EpiPod. Hey, Sarah.
Hey, Danielle.
How are you?
Doing pretty good. I feel like I'm like vibing with fall now.
Oh, like I'm pretending that I'm vibing. It is still so hot outside because Texas, but I have cranked down my AC.
Yes.
And I am playing some spookier movies and like putting pumpkin spice in my coffee in the morning.
Whenever the temp even dips a little bit lower in the morning, I'm like, oh, this is what it's like to feel crisp and fall-y.
Literally, it's 80 degrees, and I'm like, oh, there's a chill in the air.
Yes. Well, though you just got back from
Breckenridge.
So it kind of did feel like you were falling.
Sarah, it was full fall. The leaves were changing. I was in heaven. The high was 62 degrees.
Yeah.
That is the hottest that it got. If you wanted to take off your sweater, you could sit in the sun.
But like if you were in the shade, you needed that sweater.
Oh, you needed the sweater. You needed like full closed-toe shoes at night because it was in the 40s.
Oh my gosh. Well, the reason you were there is actually going to be kind of like the topic of conversation today. We're talking about weddings in general and really just like wedding activities as a whole and how to do it or navigate it with allergies, or if you're a parent to someone with food allergies. And then also on the other side of things, I think this might be helpful for somebody who has somebody with food allergies in their family who is getting married, like tips and tricks for you, or just kind of some better understanding about the other side so that you can maybe be a little bit more of an inclusive host for your guests.
Brides to be.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we should be playing like the wedding march. As that intro is playing, I'm going to cut it in.
I'm obsessed.
I won't. And then I'll be like, I had big dreams. Okay. So you were just at a bachelorette party, but you've been to many
That's what I was gonna say. Like, I am 32 years old. Like 27 Dresses was written about my life. This is probably my most favorite and most important time of being in a wedding party because it's my half niece's wedding, but I just introduce her as my cousin or my little sister. It's just like depending on the party. We'll like be at a party and I'll meet somebody who is like doesn't know either of us, and I can tell like, oh, they've talked to her earlier, and I'll be like, oh yeah, my cousin, and they're like, you mean your sister?
Yeah.
And I'm like, totally, that one. So it's just like funny, like how we choose to introduce each other. It's like Russian roulette every time. It's just like, what's the flavor of the day? But she has been my built-in best friend my whole life. I love her dearly. She's known me in all stages, anxiety, allergy girly, all the way back to when we were kids, when I was like, didn't even know to ask when we were on vacation. Like I wouldn't even tell the waiter because I didn't know that I had to. So she is just the most dear person in the world to me. And she loves Colorado. So we went to Breckenridge. We were staying with one of her best friends from college whose family has a home there. And it was just the most relaxing, wonderful weekend. However, I was starving. By the end of it, I was like, I have no energy. Like I have been living off of snacks for days. And so, I had some questions in my DMs, and I get asked all the time, like, how do you handle a wedding? Or like, oh, you're a bridesmaid, or these bridal shower, like the bachelor, all of these different showers going on. And it's really different because unlike somebody's birthday party or, a 4th of July barbecue or Thanksgiving, even though I'm in my 30s and have been doing this for a really long time, like it does make me act different and advocate different for better or worse. Like it's just a little bit more complicated. It doesn't matter if you consider the bride to be your sister. like this bridal party situation, or if it's like, oh wow, like we're coworkers and we met 6 months ago, we really hit it off and I only know her and I'm going to this funny trip. It's just different. It's different than even a birthday party because it happens hopefully only once in your life. There's so much emotion, there's so much buildup, and the last thing you want to do is to make something about you or to take the focus off of celebrating them or to make it anything other than like a bride tribe, like woo! It's just like talking about a life-threatening health condition. It's just like dong dong dong. So I mean, even though I've been on so many bachelorettes, I've been to even more showers and even more weddings, but it's just a really interesting dynamic, and I don't know if that will ever change. I don't think it will because it hasn't thus far. You guys all know by now I'm a very outspoken, confident person, especially when it comes to my allergies. But this is one where even this weekend, like it was giving me pause. And so if I'm feeling it.
Like you were nervous to say something at all because you didn't want to take the attention from like the fun and from the bride. So you would just not eat rather than order something and not say. Like if you were going to order and eat something, you were going to say.
Oh my gosh, no, I'm never like breaking my like non-negotiables. Yeah. But like I just felt a lot more of like the social anxiety, or like I had thoughts that I typically don't think. We always joke that like we're Sour Patch Kids and I'm sour and you're sweet. I was like, ooh, I'm on the sweet side. Like I was just being so much more like demure and like timid and just like overthinking that I was going to be inconveniencing some people, where typically I'm just like, this is how it is. Like, I have no other choice. So this is how it is.
And like you've said before, like everybody has their things. So especially like in a normal, just like girls' dinner or something, it's like everybody's there to just be with each other. Everybody might have like, somebody's going through a breakup. Somebody's, like everybody has their thing. But on a wedding or a bachelorette trip or whatever, it's like, the focus really is on
one person.
Like we're all celebrating that person.
And this big life change and like, you've been thinking about it your whole life. You've been all throughout, one day on your bachelorette trip. It's just a lot. It's a lot. And you don't want to take the focus off of them. And you don't want there to be a problem because that really would take the focus off of them. Yeah. So
did you think about, sorry to interrupt. Did you think about calling ahead of time? Like if you knew, did you guys know where you were going? Like could you have called ahead of time, talked to the owner or, I was going to say baker, but that's not true. The chef,
the restaurant.
And figure out like, hey, what are these things that could be safe? And then when you get there, it's not like a whole spiel. It's like, hey, I talked to somebody before, just double checking. I'm just going to order this, but
I'm a maid of honor. So I did, when I was making the reservations and things, I did mention that for them to put that on the reservation or say like, are you comfortable with that? Like, can your kitchen handle cross-contamination? But a lot of them were like breakfast on the go spots or lunch on the go spots.
Got it.
And you're also like in these small mountain towns, we're driving between the different mountain towns, service is spotty. I'm just like, I don't want to eat at some random place. Yeah. And then, no, I'm not going to maybe even have cell service for the next 45 minutes. Like,
totally
it's a lot.
Fair. Yeah.
So anyways, it really like sparked a lot of DMs coming my way and why we're doing this episode. But I can quickly run through like what my protocol is for all of the wedding events. Yeah. So for showers, I feel like that's the most typical to like a 4th of July or a Thanksgiving. Yeah. It's giving potluck. It's giving, buffet style. It's very easy to eat something big before, to call one host, or to like bring one safe snack and serve yourself that. Like you can do all the typical things with that. Yeah. And I have for all of the showers before. So those ones like don't give me any sort of different system than I typically do. But I usually just eat a lot beforehand and really enjoy the mimosas. So that's my plan of attack for showers. For like rehearsal dinner and the wedding, I have had every different kind of experience as former bridesmaid experiences and just wedding guests. Like some wedding, it's sort of like the nicer the restaurant, the better chances you're going to have a shot at a safe meal. But like if it's like a bride who's having her wedding in a field and it's a catering company, like it was a shared kitchen, then it was bussed in, then it's some high school kid who like doesn't really know. Like, you better have snacks in your bag. Whereas like, oh my gosh, one of my best friends got married at the most stunning resort in Central California. And they like, oh my God, I had like 3 waiters assigned to me to like make sure that they were handing me like a very specific champagne glass and like, oh, don't eat those grapes, eat this grapes. And like, oh, and we have made this special salmon and this special pan. I was like, wow.
That's
holy
amazing.
cow, I've never been so well fed in my whole life, the whole weekend. Like I had 3 people making sure I always had something safe to eat and like only eat if I was handed to me by them. So it's just like really has run the gamut.
Yeah.
Or like I'm from El Paso. So every bride from El Paso gets married at the El Paso Country Club. And so like it's very easy there too. Like a waiter will just like make me mine separate and deliver it to the table. So, but I mean, there have been weddings where I genuinely cannot eat a thing, all the way up to like, holy cow, I've never eaten so well in my life.
Yeah. But your main tip there then would be, I mean, obviously eat before when you can, stash the things in your purse. But like if it's a certain venue where you can ask, like you might at a typical restaurant, would you do that even though it's like, you know, a little more chaotic maybe?
Honestly, like I'm just always prepared to not eat. And I know that sounds like sad and weird when I say it out loud. I recognize that, but like I'm really good at being hungry and I never expect to be able to eat. I just don't. I would so much more prefer to have fun at the party and not have an issue, take the spotlight off of me, than to just like enjoy the wine. Like I eat a bunch. If it's a hometown wedding, oh my gosh, like I can have my mom like run me down something, or like I can run home in between the church and the reception. So Amanda Orlando is I think her name. She's like everyday allergen free on Instagram. She has actually done a few weddings where I've seen her bring her little like Tupperware and she'll like she'll get like, you know, the plate from the wedding, you know, but she'll like put her food on the plate. So she's like eating amongst everybody else if it's like a sit down situation, you know, and not a, well, I guess even if it was a buffet, you could go grab a plain plate and like get your Tupperware from your purse and like dump it on. And I thought that was kind of a good tip for somebody who really wants to be a part of it and not just be like, you're so good at you could talk to a wall, you know, but like not everybody is that social. And so, like if you do really want to eat something while everybody else is eating, that could be like a really good tip. I've had like brides really take it upon themselves. Like they link me into a email with the wedding planner ahead of time to explain, like she has like really severe dietary needs. It is a 911 situation. Like, can you work with her and the restaurant? I've had other brides like tell me like, even like mother of the brides will pull me aside and be like, Danielle, I know you never eat, but like, this is Pablo. He's the waiter. Like Pablo is the literal waiter at El Paso Country Club. Like, I'm like, I know I was a wedding here literally 2 weeks ago. And he's like, don't worry, I got you. Like same thing from last time. Like, do you want the grilled chicken with the quesadillas? I'm like, yes, I do.
Yeah, that's great.
So like they'll like take it upon themselves to tell me like, please order off of the menu, like handle this like any other restaurant you would if you feel comfortable. If not, no worries. But like, don't mess with the buffet. Don't mess with the pre-plated dinner. Like just here's your guy, order. And like, please, I hope as our guest, you're able to eat something. I understand if you don't want to. So like that's on one end of the spectrum. On the other end, like especially a buffet style or a family style, like I just don't want to deal with it. I want to drink a lot of wine and have fun. Like I just do. I also am I love capturing content. Before social media literally ever existed, Facebook, MySpace, none of it existed. I was running around as a kid like documenting on a point and shoot.
Aww.
And so I don't really even notice when everybody's like sitting down eating. I'm like running around taking photos, or like a lot of the times it depends on the wedding party, but a lot of things are happening while you're eating. Like they want the guests multitasking, like eat while we're doing the speeches, or like eat while there is some dancing. So it's not that big of a deal to like not be eating while everybody else is. To me, for most weddings, like there's so much going on that like not everybody else is like barely eating too, you know?
And also I think it just goes to show like in a lot of situations, we all think everybody's worried about what we're doing or saying or being. And it's like, actually, most people aren't giving you a second thought. Like, not to make you feel unimportant, but like for the most part, like everyone's focused on what they are doing, not what other people are doing. So like probably, choose your thing, like whatever you want to do, whatever makes you happy and comfortable and feel safe, like do it, and don't let anybody else make you feel any certain way.
It's literally the same as like a zit, or like when you have a little like spaghetti sauce on your shirt, you're like so hyper fixated that everybody's going to notice. And it's like, no, because they're worried about their own spaghetti sauce and they're worried about their own zit. Like, who cares? Also, like, I'm usually off like flirting with some groomsmen. So it's not that big of a deal. I know I'm going to be starving by the end of the night, but I also know I probably have had like more than a few normal glasses of wine. So it probably isn't going to even matter. Like, who cares? I literally never, ever, ever, ever will have a piece of the wedding cake though. Like I won't, I never will, but that's the same with like any baked good. That's so weird if I were to do that. But the biggest is bachelorette parties for me, because you are with a group of people who you typically don't, you may know some of them, but you're not going to be like great friends with every single one. You have people's childhood friends, you have people's coworkers, you have people's family. Like it's just like a smorgasbord of people. And so it's different for me than going on like somebody's birthday trip or like a girl's trip where everybody is signed up to be there and is like on their choose your own adventure kind of vibe. Like this is giving like a really girly, positive version of Lord of the Flies. It's such a funny like time capsule. This one that I just went on was like the most chill and affordable and fun and restful. Like all of us have known each other for forever. But that said, like there was one night where everybody had a really late lunch. And so people were going to like DoorDash in, and it came from a place called Palace of Asia. Yeah. And I was like, shit. Like, you're like, I'm not,
that doesn't sound like for me. Yeah.
And I sat there like having like a lot of anxiety for a second. And then I was like, you just have to like do your normal thing. So I pulled the two girls aside who had ordered and was like, hey, like I heard you ordered egg rolls. It's probably going to be in the peanut oil or like have a peanut sauce. This shouldn't affect you, but like you do need to wash your hands afterwards, because if you're eating it and then you touch the light switch, then I touch the light switch and stick my fingers in my eyes, like my life won't be in danger, but we're going to have a problem. Like we're going to have a problem.
And again, you don't want the attention on you. You don't want to have to call 911 on your, sister's bachelorette trip.
And they could tell I was really anxious, and I was like, I'm really sorry. Like I have never felt so much social anxiety in the past year. Like, because I just didn't want to be an inconvenience. I didn't want to bring down the mood. Yeah. I didn't want to make people feel like I was trying to control them or their diet.
Which I'm sure nobody actually did. But totally. That's a very normal way to feel.
Yeah. I mean, it is a normal way to feel. I typically don't. I typically am the Sour Patch Kid, where I'm just like, hey, this is really serious. Yeah. X, Y, and Z. And they're like, cool. Thanks so much for telling me. This one, I truly was like stepping into like an alternate personality where I'm like, hey, I wasn't going to say anything, but, and then afterwards I'm like sitting in my room, just like thinking like, oh no, like they're going to think that I have an eating disorder. Cause nobody's seeing me eat. Like I'm eating in my bedroom. We stopped at Whole Foods before we even drove to Breckenridge, and I got a lot of Abe's. I got like 2 of the pumpkin loaves. Yeah. I got like cheese, crackers, chips, a bunch of fruit, a bunch of yogurt. But like nobody was seeing me eating. Yeah. And I was like stressing, worrying about what other people were going to think of me, of like, oh, Danielle doesn't eat. Like she obviously has like something really serious going on. Like I think she has an eating disorder. And I never have those thoughts. I usually am just like,
who cares?
What you think of me is none of my business.
So you channeled me is what you're saying.
Totally. Yeah. We switched roles 100%. Yeah. But it was really interesting. And it like gave me a second to be like, oh gosh, like this is what normal people feel like.
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
yes, it is.
Yeah. And it's not that I'm not like considerate of other people in like normally. It's just, I'm so like, I got 3 decades of doing this, and I know that there is no different end result of me quietly spiraling about something I can't control, and me just being like, people who are going to love you and protect you and be your advocate in this are going to do it. And the people who aren't. And that goes for non-allergy things too. That goes for your personality. That goes for your type of activities you enjoy. Like that goes for everything. Yeah. So I never want to inconvenience people, but I'm never going to sacrifice my safety. And I didn't this time, but I was so socially stressed, just like not wanting to affect other people's time. And yeah, it was fine. Like she could tell I was like really stressed, and she like put her arms on me. She's like, Danielle, like, we're not going to be irresponsible about it. Like, we know, we'll wash our hands. Like, thanks for the reminder. You don't have to worry. And I was like, okay,
thank you. Yeah.
So
but that does make it, I mean, it's just like, most people don't have to do that.
Yeah.
Think about these
Or
things.
like I was doing really weird things that I typically never do, which I actually would recommend. Like I was the one to make the reservation. So like I called ahead. I asked if they could handle it. The people who could, which were like the dinner places, most of them could. Like I would get up to go wash my hands, but I'd really go ask to speak to the manager and the waiter and give them the real spiel. Like when I ordered, I'd be like, and I have a nut allergy. And that was it. And then I got up so that like I'm not taking a big chunk of the table discussion. We're talking about like their first impression of all of our first impression of the groom, and like, oh, this funny story of the first time they had a bad date, or like whatever. I just didn't want it. I didn't want it to be about me. It's not about me. And so like I chose to go do that off to the side. Sarah, the meal comes. I ordered like something so not weird, but like I'm not a foodie. This was the type of place where like they have like honey emulsified foam on top of like, I'm just like, can I have a grilled cheese? Oh, do you have a kids menu? Like they didn't even have chicken. Like they had no chicken on the menu. And I was like, I don't want elk with foam on top.
I would love it.
Oh my God. I was just like, ugh. But it was her favorite restaurant. So it was like, that's where we went. But I ordered a soup and a burrata with like stone fruit and heirloom tomatoes. And I'm like, perfect. Like all of this stuff I'm good with. I have interrogated them over the phone. I've interrogated them off to the side. It hits. And it looks like pesto underneath the bowl. So I'm like, is this pesto? And he's like, no, it's green gratis dressing. I'm like, well, it's certainly not the kind that you get at Walmart. So what is it? Like, what's in your version? He like pulls it up on his phone. I'm like, this guy has to be high. Like either from the altitude or the things that are legal in Colorado. But like, it just didn't seem like it was hitting. All of my spidey senses were going off. I open up the burrata. It looked like walnuts were in it. And I was like, what is this? And he was like, it's breadcrumbs, but they've like softened because the cheese on top. And I'm like, well, was the bread made here or in some bakery? Because hello, like I typically can't eat from normal bakeries. So like, I was just like, all right, somebody else, like table shares the burrata. Like, I don't want it. Then I like take a sip of the soup. It is the spiciest thing I've ever had in my life.
Oh my gosh.
Burning my esophagus, which aside from being uncomfortable, can be very triggering for nut allergy people.
Yeah.
Like it feels like fire in the hole when you take the first bite. So I was just like, my goal is to not have a panic attack right now. And I did fine. Like at the end of the weekend, the important part is, and what I hope people are listening here is like, it was still my favorite bachelorette I've ever been on. Mm-hmm. It was like probably one of the more complicated food ones. And one of the ones where I was like definitely like on an anxiety lasso, hyperfixating on things because we were more remote. Like these are a lot of mom and pop kitchens that like have a lot of nuts and vegan options and like small kitchens with cross-contamination everywhere. Like it was definitely one of the harder food scenarios, but it was the best bachelorette I've ever been on. I had the most fun. I laughed the hardest. I got the most rest. It was just like summer camp for adults. And so I think that's important to remember as allergy people, like when it has to do with weddings or not, two things can be true at the same time. You can be having the time of your life and also be having a hard time like feeding yourself and feeling full enough. But like, at the end of the day, like had the best time ever.
Yeah. It can be done.
Yeah. In past bachelorettes, like we've done different things. Like some of them have been at hotels where like there isn't a kitchen. Some of them we've like rented a place in Palm Springs or in San Diego. And like we're in more civilization areas. So all of them are going to be super different, but it definitely is a different animal than just a normal trip.
Yeah.
And weddings in general are. Like, take food allergies off the table. Weddings are wild. It's why so many books and TV shows have them as a part of the plot lines. Like, they are just these crazy little, like, bubble universes.
Yeah.
Where all these random characters come in from all of these different corners of the country. So I think that's also something to remember as allergy people. It's just like, weddings are wild. And so, like, if this feels different or you feel like you're having a harder time managing your allergy, it's because like everything is like escalated. Everything is different at weddings. So
for weddings themselves, like I think back to when Mark and I got married, and I mean, allergies weren't even remotely on my brain. Like I don't think I even hardly knew anybody with an allergy or knew that they had one if they did. And like, I certainly didn't ask anybody who was attending my wedding, like if they had dietary preferences.
Right.
Because ours was a like served, like it wasn't a sit down plated, like, oh, you want beef or chicken. Like it didn't, you know, there was no like vegetarian I mean, there was a vegetarian option, but like it was a serve yourself type of situation, or not yourself, but you know what I mean? What do they call those? Like lines?
Buffet.
Yeah, but it wasn't buffet. It was like stations, and people served you.
Oh, cool.
Anyway, you know, there's a word for it. And I'm sure we had like a vegan thing. I'm sure we had a vegetarian option, but like I would put money on the fact that everything had dairy. I'm sure we had nuts in the dessert. Like I have no clue because my brain wasn't there. Like I didn't have to worry. I wasn't thinking about it all the time. Looking back now, of course, like in hindsight, I'm like, what the hell's wrong with me? I should have done that. And like, if I have any get together or gathering or party now, I ask. So have you ever been asked by?
Like one of the,
because they knew you had the allergy, or because like, it was like a really like, it was like, let us know if you have.
It was on the RCP.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah. Like for the Central California wedding, it was a RCP where like one of the required fields, you had to say if you had any dietary restrictions. And I said no to that one.
Yeah.
Or no, it was like, do you have any, like, it was like gluten-free, whatever. Like, do you have dietary restrictions? And then they had a separate box for like, do you have any severe food allergies? And so I was like, wow. This is the creme de la creme.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
But like, I feel like that's a really simple thing to add on. If you are having the type of wedding where there are choices or options, or even, I guess even, if you're having any kind of like send back RSVP, it would be very nice to know if somebody has food allergies, like, so you can make sure that there's something for them.
Yeah. When I like went for the welcome dinner, and like, just, you know, you like pick up your champagne. One of the wedding planners was like, you're Danielle. And I'm like, I was like, how many other people are you looking for? And she was like, there's 5 of you. Like I have 5 people that I'm looking at.
When was this? Because I feel like, you know, I got married about 10 years ago. And so I feel like so much has changed in the last decade.
It's 2021.
Yeah.
But like, okay, that is not what I expect. Like if you're looking at it, like, what do I, as the person who has this, what do I want or expect from a bride? I literally do not want or expect a thing.
Yeah.
I really don't. I am so stoked to be there and to celebrate. If you're having it on a peanut farm, I will be sending a gift and my regrets. But like, who would do that? No, I genuinely, like, if you are a 2024, 2025 bride listening, like, what do you need to do? I mean, you could put it on their RSVP, but not even that. Like, I probably am not going to eat. I probably am going to come prepared. I might eat if it's at a restaurant they can accommodate, but I genuinely don't need anything from you.
Yeah.
I don't want anything. I want to celebrate you. That's what I want.
I think about it like, so I kind of divided up for allergies, like for the certain foods. So like having a kid who has a dairy allergy versus like he also has a peanut allergy, to me, it feels very different. If I was getting remarried, like if we were renewing our vows and inviting 100 people or something to the party, knowing what I know now, I definitely would ask. And if all the people coming to the party, there were like 2 or 3 people that had a nut allergy, I feel like unless it was my favorite thing, it was like some special thing in my life that we had this macadamia nut, something, whatever, like that aside, I could very easily tell the caterer or whoever's doing the food, like, we're just not going to have peanuts. Like, it's not that big of a deal to help those people. And I'm not saying I would expect anybody else to do that for me. I definitely wouldn't, especially on their wedding day. And not even at their kid's birthday party, like in the backyard. I never expect it. But I'm just saying my point of view is like, I feel like I could easily accommodate that. Whereas like if somebody was like, I'm allergic to celery, you know, or something that's like, or like garlic.
Cinnamon.
Yeah. Like, or even milk. Like that's going to be really hard to host a party for 100 people without using dairy. And like, not only do I totally understand that from the allergy side, but also from the host side, that like, I just don't think anybody's going to ask you to do that.
Totally.
Just like at school, right? They have peanut-free schools, but nobody has a dairy-free school. Yeah. You know, even though there's probably equally as many people who have a dairy allergy to a peanut allergy, if not more.
Right. So like this wedding that's coming up this fall for my cousin, insert sister, insert niece, whatever you want to call her. Like my half sister was like, hey, like this is, you know, the venues, like give them a call. I can also put you in contact with the coordinator at the restaurant that we're having the ceremony at. Yeah. And like, that is already way more than I'm like, don't worry about me. Like, thanks. But like, genuinely don't worry about me, because the truth is, this is my life. Like I don't eat out very often, or the people who eat out all the time and have a different set of like what they're comfortable with. Fine. But like, it's going to be normal for them to go talk to the caterer person or talk to the rest. Like, this is our life. So like, genuinely, you don't need to do anything special for me. I'm so stoked to just celebrate you. And like, again, to the allergy people listening, if you feel like I did this past week where I'm like, why am I like, I'm not new at this. Why am I having such a harder time managing it? It's like, weddings are weird. Yeah. In a good way, at least for me, but like, weddings are just cuckoo bananas.
Yeah. Well, let's just end by saying that I can't wait for you to get married, and whether you invite me or not, I'm coming. I'll just show up. And I will not bring any of your allergens, and
thank you.
I will not expect you. Well, my children won't be coming anyway, so it won't matter for me.
Sarah, but you are such a riot, and we really did change personality this week. Me being like, I don't know if you're inviting me, but I'm coming anyways.
Yes,
is so sour patch.
Yes, I love that. Well, I am. I would just show up. I'd be like the creeper, like just like,
you know what? We should have traded outfits. And by the way, you're definitely going to be invited to my wedding. I don't know if I'm going to be getting married, but if I don't get married to a man, like I'm going to get married to myself and throw a fabulous party.
Oh, I love that for you.
Sarah, the amount of gifts that I've given people, I'm for sure getting them back.
Yes,
but like at this point, I don't know. Although I'm going on a date tomorrow night.
Ooh, okay. After this airs, you're going to have to tell us how the date went.
I mean,
like on social media.
With my track record and Austin's track record, I can already tell you probably not well.
Where did you meet this guy? Or is it a setup?
It's a setup.
Okay. Well, that can be better than like,
I don't know,
a dating app.
I have even like worse luck with those.
Oh no.
Okay. Should we dive into questions?
Let's do it.
Okay.
This segment is brought to you by Pulse Power, a high-protein, all-natural chickpea-based snack line that is co-founded by an allergy mom. And Danielle, we love these snacks in our house.
They have delicious snack sticks and chickpea spreads that are made in a dedicated top 14 allergen-free facility. A great choice for school lunches and snack boxes.
Sarah, when the kids were little and you would go somewhere, how would you navigate strangers? Example, yesterday we went to a food truck park event thing with our friends. It had a great open space for kids to run around, so there was less food anxiety because it just wasn't on the tables everywhere, more like on blankets and chairs. However, my son started to play with some other kids, and I clocked that they were going back to their blanket to eat pirate's booty. My son has a contact anaphylactic allergy to milk. I wasn't comfortable asking a total stranger to get up and have his kids wash their hands, so I just removed my son from the situation. But he was upset because he just wanted to play with them. Is that something that I should just get over and ask them to please wipe their hands, or do you think it's rude to ask? I just never want to inconvenience somebody for eating food that they can comfortably eat and brought. Maybe I'm just overthinking this all, but I want my kid to be able to play with other kids, especially because he's going to be an only child, and interactions like that I know are important.
What like a thought out and thorough question, and like a very considerate person, I can already tell. This is tricky because I think the key words I heard in there were contact, reactive, anaphylactic, allergen, like dairy. I mean, there's some keywords in there that you can't
get around.
Right. So like my kid used to be contact reactive, but not anaphylactically. So he would for certain in that situation as a kid before treatment be playing with the kids who are eating the pirate booty. And I would have to make a choice. Am I okay with him having hives on his arms, and possibly maybe a little more, like if he touches his face, and then maybe that's dicey and we have to like use some antihistamine. Like there was
it stresses me out. Yeah. Just hearing you say hives on my arms and maybe a little more on his face.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and it sucks, but as a parent, you do have to make that decision of like, okay, what am I comfortable with in terms of like, I want him to be a kid and I want him to have fun, and I don't want to like put him in a bubble, but also I need to make sure that he's safe. And so it's like you're walking that fine line. However, I think this person's line is pretty apparent, like, and there's not much leeway there. If he has touched dairy and gone into anaphylaxis, that limits you a lot. I think I would have done the exact same thing as she did. I think I just would have probably pulled my kid. Depending on my mood, I maybe would have asked, or if I, like, you get a vibe from people, right? Like if you get the vibe, if they're in like, I don't know, I'm going to sound really judgy, but if they look like the people who are not going to like a stranger telling them what to do, and I'm picturing a type of person, you can picture your own type of person, but we're probably picturing the same type of person who's really into like individual freedoms and liberties and wants to just like not be, I don't know, wants to be a Karen. I probably would just have removed my kid and dealt with their meltdown. Again, given her son's level of reactivity.
Okay, something that like she said, like, should I get over it and ask them to wipe their hands or keep removing my kid from the situation? So it sounds like maybe she might be comfortable with like, if they had wiped off their hands, he could continue to play.
Right? Yeah. So I think that's what I mean though. Like, I think I would probably ask in some occasions if they could wipe their hands, but only if like I got the vibe that they would be open to that.
Oh, okay.
If I'm getting the vibe that they're not open to that, I would probably just remove my kid and deal with the meltdown. And again, this is all dependent on like if your kid is that sensitive to the allergen. If like in my situation too, I would like let him play. Again, this is like taking anaphylaxis on contact out of the equation. I would have let Graham play, and then like every once in a while go up to him and like kind of body check him and see like where we stand. But again, if you know from experience that like your kid's going to have a major problem, I think you have two choices, and that's to ask them to stop eating and wipe their hands while you're playing, or to remove your kid and have them freak out. And both options freaking suck.
I was going to say like, this is stuff of like being a silent warrior.
Oh,
like,
it is.
This is a lose-lose, and it both sucks. And like, I mean, just like thinking about, I only have a dog, but like thinking about like, oh my God, like putting him in a situation where he may or may not be in like amount of danger.
Yeah.
It's gut wrenching.
Oh, it is.
But like yanking the kid out of there, also gut wrenching. Like fellow only child.
Oh yeah. No, it sucks either way you flip it. That's for sure.
It's really hard.
I would say if you do go up to I wouldn't say like get over it. Now, I don't know how timid you are. Like, have you never done that? Like, I don't know. I would maybe take baby steps in that way.
That's what I was
like,
going to say.
You know, like maybe not in that situation doing it when there's like 4 or 5 families you have to talk to, but say you're at the park and something similar is happening and it's just one other mom who looks really friendly and you've been talking already. Like, that could be an opportunity to put on your like brave face and give it a shot and see how it feels. Try it on a minute. But generally what I say in those situations, and I've said it on here before, is I just like come out and explain and say like, hey, this is super awkward. You can even explain how you're feeling, like, hey, I'm sorry to have to ask this. I love that our kids are playing and he's having such a great time with your kid. Unfortunately, he has a severe allergy upon contact to his allergens, and I noticed that your son is eating these chips. Totally okay if like you don't want to wipe your hands, but you know, if you're okay with it, here's a wipe, like something like that. Like, I always say like, we're totally fine to go over here and keep playing or to leave the park. Like, we're kind of on our way out anyway, but if you're comfortable with it, here's a wipe. Are you okay with saving the snack for later, wiping your kid's hands so we can keep playing?
So here, I've never done this before because obviously I don't have kids, but this is like really reminds me a lot of the airplane conversation, which I do a lot of with how much I travel. And like, I don't even think that you have to like overthink and rehearse the full script, because you're going to know in the first 2 sentences, they're going to take action by themselves. Like when I'm on the airplane, I'm like, hey, I love your idea of like saying how you're feeling. Like, hey, like this makes me like feel super awkward asking this. I would encourage you to not apologize, because there's nothing to apologize for. You nor your child did anything to make this happen. So like you have nothing to be sorry for. But saying like, hey, like I feel super awkward even bringing this up. This is pretty random, but I love that they're playing and having such a good time, but he actually has a life-threatening allergy to dairy, which is like a big ingredient of Pirate's Booty. That parent is either going to be like, oh my gosh, thank you so much for telling me.
Jimmy, let me take these.
Let me take these. Is there a place to wash our hand? Oh my God, you're reaching for the wipes. They're reaching for the wipes. We're good. Or they're going to be like, oh.
Yeah, just like looking at you.
You can't be allergic to dairy.
Yeah.
Save your breath. Be like, you know what? I'm so glad I spoke up. Like, enjoy the rest of the picnic, guys. Like, Jimmy, we gotta go. Daddy's over here. Like, it's the exact same conversation as on the airplane.
Yeah.
I don't even get to say the full thing. I have my 2 sentences, and the way that they are respond to that. Oh my gosh, I just bought peanut M&Ms. I haven't opened them. Don't worry about it. I don't need to eat them right now. I'm going to save them for my hotel room. Thanks so much for telling me. Perfect. Or, well, like the last guy who I encountered, then I'm like, no problem. I'm so glad I asked. Enjoy your flight. I'm going to get up. I'm going to move. No worries.
Yeah.
No worries. And it sucks that we have to be the one to always do things when other people's unempathetic, gross attitude is the reason why. But like, genuinely, as an overthinker, don't even worry about like having to have the whole script to go, or worrying like, how do I ask them to wipe their hands? Just saying it, they're either going to be like, spring into action, how can I help? Or they're going to be, a Karen is such a nice word. A Karen. And like that's
poor Karen's out there with their name, like the actual names Karens.
For real.
I'm so sorry if your name is Karen. That's not fair.
How did that come to be? I would love to know.
Yeah, I know. There's got to be a backstory.
Like probably some like viral video.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
But anyways, yeah, I would, as an overthinker, I would encourage you to know like you really only need 2 sentences and you will pick up extremely quickly. The rest of it's going to write itself.
So true. I mean, even I feel like I have a pretty good intuition, but even if you don't, like, I feel like it's so easy to know like the vibe from people from looking at them. And also, again, like just walking up, not even saying anything, literally just like walking into their space. You immediately like, is someone open to you?
Hey,
or someone closed
nice
off,
to meet
you know?
you.
Yeah.
Is this your,
Yes. I mean, you are ready. You are ready now.
Totally.
But anyway, that is a really hard place to be in. And
baby steps, like you were saying, that's exactly what I was thinking when I was reading it, is like, if you are somebody who doesn't feel comfortable, like asking other people to do things, like, I don't know how young your kid is, but like, you're going to have to get pretty comfortable doing that. And so are they. So just like figuring out, all right, for this week, like what are some ways that do feel attainable, like to ask. So you can do it. We're all in this boat together and we all feel awkward. Don't apologize though.
We are. Yeah. Good tips for sure. Well, that was a really long one that we kind of like talked through a lot. So maybe we save some of them we questions for next week.
Lots of questions in the bank, but we'll save them for next week and keep sending them because we could always use more.
Oh yeah. And it's just like everybody's issues and like, you know, complications feel very unique to you, but really like there's so many people out there who have the same kind of situation going or can relate in one aspect or another. And so I think just us, like we don't always have the answers, but we're just like talking through them. And sometimes that's all you need is just someone to talk through them with you.
And I think that's something that like, because we have been friends for a few years now, which is so fun.
I know.
But something that I forget is like not having somebody to talk about it with who totally gets it. Makes you feel so isolated and makes it fester and makes it feel even bigger. Yeah. So
send us your things. It helps us and hopefully it helps you.
Yeah.
And we're good.
We'll workshop them all together. Okay. We'll see you next week.
See you next week.